the Higher Ed Budget Committee, and we're all here, which is a great thing. So, little housekeeping first thing. Shirley, I think you had something that you wanted to mention to everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have in front of you a portion of the governor's recommendation schedules. These are in the back of volume 1. I was having a discussion after our meeting yesterday. I was having a discussion with the chair on aid to locals and other assistance because we had a lot of discussion about that. The Board of Regents has in their budget and in that table that we looked at amounts for aid to locals and other assistance, but so do each of the universities. And it's different money, even though some of the money that's in the board's budget goes to the university. At this time, it's in the board's budget. But to hopefully help clarify the schedules, and at the very first one you have at Schedule 4.1, it's the all funding sources for aid to locals. And I even highlighted what is in the board's budget. And for that one, the universities don't have any. But if you'll turn the page, then there's State General Fund for aid to locals. And again, that's all board money. Schedule 5.1 on the next page are all funding sources for other assistance. And you'll notice there you not only have the board with the different scholarships, but you'll see the other assistance. And again, mostly this is scholarships going to students. You'll see Emporia State, Fort Hays, it goes to the next page. Each of the university has their own. And then on the Schedule 5.2 is the State General Fund portion of that other assistance. And again, you'll see the Board of Regents, and on the back, there are some other universities that also have other assistance. So I hope that helps. And I don't want to take a lot of time from Fort Hays or Emporia, but if you have any questions later on, just let me know.
Thank you, Shirley. And I do appreciate this extra information. It may not be something everybody wants to dig into, but again, we have a goal of all of us. More information is always more helpful. And so hopefully this will be helpful. Yes, Representative Riley.
Quick question for Shirley. So I see several $100,000 worth of scholarships that each one of the universities have. So are they drawing interest on that? Are those set aside in accounts that they collect interest and make money on those funds?
I'm going to say, since you have those representatives here, I'm going to let them answer how they handle that.
Good answer. Okay. All right. Any other questions, committee? Okay, we will go ahead and jump in and welcome Dr. Tisa Mason from Fort Hays. We're happy you're here, that you made the trip. It's good to see you in person, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Chair Humphreys and members of the committee, for the record, I am Tisa Mason, president of Fort Hays State University. Joining me today is our retiring Vice President for Administration and Finance, Mike Barnett, and our legislative liaison, Jenny Rose. I'd like to begin by thanking you for your service to the citizens of our great state. At Fort Hays State University, we believe that tomorrow is made by thinkers and doers who turn ideas into action. We turn challenges into opportunities, and we are the best when the going gets rough. We were well prepared for the challenges of the pandemic, giving us 30+ years of experience and providing educational opportunities for place-bound students. We understand the difference between online learning and remote learning. Our online faculty intentionally use various learning technologies to design ways for students and professors to interact and communicate beyond a traditional classroom setting. We are the largest online provider in Kansas and are one of just 6 universities in the world to earn the United States Distance Learning Association certification. During these pandemic challenged months, we kept the lights on and the doors open, responsibly managed our finances without furloughing or terminating employees, and experienced a record year for students graduating. As you will see on the map provided on page 2 of the testimony, the Fort Hays State University service area extends over almost half of the state, which includes many, many rural communities. We believe it is our responsibility to respond to the economic concerns of the state and, most importantly, the people in our region. Some examples: responsiveness to K-12. Our roots are in teacher education. We embrace this important calling and continue to partner with school districts with creative solutions such as transitioning to teaching and para pathways. Just last month, we worked with our local school district to have our teaching interns become licensed emergency substitute teachers, which helped a lot. As social unrest plagued our country, our criminal justice faculty and university police department went to work on providing solutions. Sponsored by a $1.25 million grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, we created a regional de-escalation center to teach law enforcement officers techniques that can help resolve potentially dangerous confrontations. Nursing faculty at Fort Hays State University understand the challenges nurses will face in rural communities and that our students need to be prepared differently for those rural communities. That's why our program places special emphasis on rural preceptorships and simulations. Our faculty have created over 40 unique rural care simulations. Starting this fall, our nurse practitioners will do 25% of clinical hours in rural communities with a population of less than 5,000. We are focused on the future for Kansas families and business. For example, we recognize that providing access to higher education builds the workforce that is essential in thriving rural communities in Kansas. Kansas's Hispanic population grew roughly 25% since 2012. Recognizing the growth of this demographic and the need for an educated workforce, we focused on improving the college-going rate for Hispanic students. Among other initiatives, we created the Hispanic College Institute, a free 3-day residential program that prepares high school students to enter and succeed in higher education. And we tell those students, any higher education. Although we have more work to do, our initiatives are paying off. In 2009, we were serving 324 Hispanic students. In 2020, we were serving more than 1,100 Hispanic students. Our Transfer and Military Center provides students with a seamless transition to Fort Hays by developing innovative pathways to degree completion, such as our Kansas Community College Guarantee. This focuses on keeping it simple. Complete an associate's degree of arts or sciences at a Kansas community college, and you have fulfilled FHSU general ed requirements, period. Our partnership with the Kansas Army National Guard provides pathways to a tuition-free degree. These well-trained men and women are a rich source of talent for our state. We are building a Kansas computing talent pipeline. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects computer and IT operations will grow 13% between 2020 and 2030. That growth rate is expected to increase as broadband infrastructure and cybersecurity investments, particularly in rural areas, expand. With 7 certificate programs, 8 graduate programs, undergraduate majors in computer networking, web and mobile application development, information systems, health informatics, and cybersecurity, we are educating more than 400 traditional students as well as mid-career professionals. So now let me turn to a topic near and dear to my heart, affordability. Access to higher education goes beyond geographic location. It also must be affordable. Our affordability is based on our proven business practice, and I just want to take a moment to talk a little bit about our business model. On page 3 of your handout, you'll see that 23% of our revenue comes from the state. What you may not know is because of that, only 1/3 of our employees are funded by state dollars. So just as an example, to use the governor's budget, of which we are grateful for, our portion of the reinvestment in higher education would be $2.7 million. If a 5% raise, just again for argument, went through for state employees, it would cost us $2.4 million. That would leave us new money of approximately $300, a very welcome but a modest amount. Again, we're very grateful for consideration of all higher education funding and the potential for an opportunity and increase, but I just want to give you some understanding of our budget and why tuition and fees are so important to us. Several charts on pages 3 through 6 best tell the story of our revenue and how we use our funding to make Fort Hays a best buy for those seeking advanced learning, whether on campus or online. Fort Hays has been the most affordable tuition among our peers, with our online programs being equally affordable. The Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity did a study on return on investment, or ROI, on almost 30,000 bachelor degree programs and found that nationwide, over a quarter of the programs had a negative ROI. Using the exact same metrics, a staff member of our Robbins College of Business and Entrepreneurship plugged in the Fort Hays programs and found a positive return rate for every single Fort Hays program category. That is because of our high value, affordable tuition. So what makes us successful? Let me share just a couple of examples. We have actively collaborated with two-year schools throughout the state of Kansas since 1998. We have a new Transfer Connect program, which authorizes specialized services between community college academic advisors and students and dedicated Fort Hays State University transfer coaches. And this is most important, while the students are enrolled in the community college. On page 7, you will see additional examples of success, including our Gateway partnership with North Central Kansas Technical College, highly successful living and learning communities for on-campus students, and several examples of how we proactively support our online students. This fall, we opened the Fishley Will Center for Student Success, a 3-story building attached to the Memorial Union, brimming with student success services for both on-campus and online students. Like others, the pandemic has affected our enrollments, which up to this point, we had experienced 19 consecutive years of growth. This year, we are serving more than 14,000 students. You'll find an enrollment graphic on page 8. Also, on pages 8 and 9, you'll specifically see charts depicting our growth and serving Kansans. Good news, we are trending up, serving slightly more Kansas online than we did last year. We measure the success of our graduates, but by what happens after they graduate. A survey of graduates from the summer of 2020 through spring of 21 reported that 95% of the respondents, and I wanted to say we had an astounding 83% response rate, indicated that they were either employed or continuing their education with graduate work. As I alluded to earlier, we are committed to filling high demand jobs in Kansas, such as nursing, social work, informatics, and much, much more. 72% of our nursing graduates stay in Kansas, and 90% of our APRNs work in rural or underserved areas. Thanks to an investment from you, our social work program has grown from 100 students in 2015 to more than 300 in 2022. Social workers in Western Kansas no longer have to travel across the state to further their studies to earn a master's degree. Our online MSW program allows them to stay in place in rural communities they serve and provide a much needed resource for mental health and other areas. Computing jobs are in high demand. 97% of our computer majors report employment after graduation with average starting salaries between $65,000 and $70,000. The foundation of our success rests squarely on the shoulders of our talented faculty who combine their love of teaching in a smaller regional comprehensive university with innovation and forward thinking to best serve students and the people of Kansas. I've provided a list of a few of our faculty accolades on page 14, but I'm especially proud today to give out a shout out to Dr. Andrew Feldstein, who's Associate Provost for Teaching Innovation and Learning Technologies. Dr. Feldstein is one of 10 recognized in Ingram's 2022 class of Icons in Education. We keep our fingers on the pulse of the state to not only offer a quality, affordable, and accessible educational experience for our students and their families, and fill the talent pipeline that fuels our state economy, but we also develop and manage tools that help leverage these qualities for the well-being of our state. One key tool we use is the Small Business Development Center Network, the SBDC, which is federally funded. Headquartered in Topeka and overseen by Fort Hays State University, this network of 12 centers across the state works with small businesses to achieve success in today's marketplace. An example of their recent project, the Capital Access Center, pairs pandemic-challenged small businesses with lending organizations who are primed to help with business loans. Every dollar in Kansas SBDC network generated $45 in funding partner ROI. A second tool is the Fort Hays State University Docking Institute, which facilitates public policy among governmental and nonprofit entities. Among their services are labor availability studies for economic development, economic impact analyses, and housing availability for the recruitment and retention of workers. Looking ahead, in these budget presentations in the past few years, I've often been asked, what would Fort Hays do with additional funding? This year, I came prepared with an answer, even before you asked. Fort Hays would like to invest in the cybersecurity initiative as part of the Kansas Board of Regents strategic plan. We have proposed a technology business incubator center to leverage existing synergies on campus and create a supportive environment for small business security-oriented ventures. We believe we are well positioned thanks to our computing talent pipeline, the accessible research of the Docking Institute, and necessary outreach through our small business development centers. We would need $500,000 to launch the program, which will solve problems, with an ongoing appropriation to sustain this work benefiting small businesses in rural communities. In closing, our presence matters. We're the second largest employer in Ellis County and provide a direct economic benefit to Ellis and the 4 surrounding counties. We provide high quality, nationally recognized programs at a very reasonable cost. We deliver post-secondary education to our students on campus, in Kansas, and around the world, thanks to our 30+ years of experiencing offering award-winning online education. I do hope you'll take the time to explore my presentation in greater detail as provided in my written testimony. Responses to the information you requested is located on pages 20 through 27 specifically. Thank you very much for listening to me today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And I hope you'll allow me, as the game show did, to phone a friend and ask Mike to join me if I need his assistance. Thank you very much.
If you'll just stay right there, I'm assuming we have questions. Representative Riley?
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. So to continue my question, so the amount of money that you receive on your scholarships, do you have a place that you set those aside and they get invested in interest-paying money so that it'll create more money for the next year?
I can answer that from the foundation, but for this one, I phone a friend.
Mike Barnett. I'm the retiring Vice President for Administration and Finance. The answer to your question is a little bit more complicated than you might expect. We get dollars for scholarships from a number of different sources. And depending on the source, we could be earning interest on it if we're using tuition revenue dollars, which the state allows us to invest with the pooled money investment fund. And we would be getting a little bit of interest on that, but the rest of the funds, no. They could come to us from communities, they could come through us from the foundation or other areas. So it's a little bit complicated.
Okay, so are you thinking like 50% of your scholarships draw interest or 10%?
I'll go with something less than 50%. We probably fund about $2.5 million worth of scholarships from internal funds, which some of those we would get interest on. The balance of the scholarship funds comes from foundation and community scholarships. That's probably about another $2.5 to $3 million. So say 50%.
Okay, Madam Chair, a couple more questions.
Go ahead. Let's do one. I'll see if anyone else has a question, and then we can come back to you.
So this is back to the president again. So looking at my book here that the Regents has, these goals for each one of the universities. And one of the goals is, to increase the first and second year retention rates. I think that was one of my questions on another questionnaire. So that was important to me. The thing is let's just use your example, which is really good, that 84% of your students stick with you. What happens to the students that are, some of the universities, this number is low. What is the follow through that your college does or your university does?
Okay, so to be honest, our retention rate has been climbing. We did step back a little bit in COVID. I remember when I was vice president there, we worked really, really hard at this. In 2019, we were at 78.3%. One of the things that you might be interested, I just came back from an AGB conference. Do you know that nationwide, 40% of students in higher education stop out? So if our students, now some of these students are transferring, this is not our success rate, which is different because the success rate includes staying in the system. But some of the students will come back. We reach out to them, we monitor them. We've done, especially in the last couple of years, even before the pandemic, comeback scholarships that we wanted to have them back. We educate them on the process and do the best that we can to get them to fruition, and it doesn't always happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So on your same thing here, then one of your goals is to increase the amount of students that graduate. Mm-hmm. My question is on each one of those careers, and thank you very much for letting the answers of what are the top programs that people graduate from. So if someone graduates from management, information systems, and services, I know that there are certifications, Microsoft certifications and different things. So how do you know they learned? Just because they graduated, how do you know that they learned the material, that they're able to pass that certificate, that Microsoft certificate? And if so, do they have the ability to come back at no tuition to retake some classes to make sure that next time they do pass? And I'm talking about all of your top ones here. Thank you.
So there's a lot of ways. First of all, in informatics, we have several certifications. So some of those are the mid-career professionals. Some of them are students. Some of them are continuing education. A lot of those certificates, depending on how they're structured, I don't know the details of all of them, just like passing your licensure exams, they are measuring your knowledge to make sure that you're qualified to be in that area. Another way that we look at this is by employer feedback. I have been stopped by, even just recently in Hayes, I was stopped at a Leadership Hayes reception by a recruiter who said, I really just want to let you know that your students do outstanding, that recruiters come to us and ask for Fort Hayes students. I think that's a lot. And then obviously, again, all of the licensures, the accounting exams, our financial students just went on and was, I want to say, second or third in the nation on the financial challenge. I think they were third this year. But they compete nationally with a lot of the co-curricular, co-mentored programs that are out there as well.
Okay, Representative Amex.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and President Mason, thank you very much for giving my son an education where he can be a proud Kansas taxpayer. Let's change directions a little bit. I believe that the numbers here speak for themselves, and the job that Fort Hays State University is doing. I think that you all have really figured it out when it comes to educating young people. Talk about the facility itself. Do you have any idea on the deferred maintenance that you all are carrying?
I am going to phone a friend again because he's got all the numbers in his head. I have to look them up.
The number that we had presented to us as a result of the latest survey was $140 million worth of deferred maintenance. That survey or that study was done based on replacement value, a lot of equipment that's still operational. So, I would maybe not consider our deferred maintenance quite that high, but that's where the number's at right at the moment.
And if it was in the material, I apologize. There was a lot of material here. It was very, very good. But anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Your question, Representative Wassinger.
Thank you for being here, and thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Mason, have you gone through your curriculum and your colleges to see which ones you might be able to weed out? I know that's one of the issues that we've kind of looked at, and we're hoping that would continue.
If you talk about performance-based, yes. So here's a good example. Our strategic plan, we obviously are funding strategic enrollment initiatives. Some of them have taken off big time, such as a social work. One of them we invested in is athletic training. As you know, the accreditation firms said everybody needed to have a master's by 2023. We thought that would be good. We had an undergraduate degree. Anyone that applies for funding for our strategic plan initiatives, if it involves hiring employees, has to identify where that position will disappear if the goals are not met, if it doesn't really grow. And so we are in the process of working with the Kansas Board of Regents to take off 2 programs. One of them is the athletic training program. It never got off the ground. We feel, since it's an on-campus program and that students in Kansas can get that training well at other institutions, it's not something that we need to hold on our books. So we are in the process of moving in that direction.
Thank you. I just want to, for the deferred maintenance, I just want to brag a little bit because Fort Hays has the lowest deferred maintenance, and that's just a fact. That's not just bragging. And it's really mostly concerned with Gross Memorial Coliseum. It's an older building, but it's enormous. It has pool and basketball and classrooms and teachers' offices. So I think in the scheme of things, the rest of the campus has been really just shored up and very beautifully done. So thank you, Dr. Mason.
Thank you. And of course, we would love to give anyone a tour. We're very proud of our campus. We don't have any building that needs to be taken down. We're have stayed on top of it for decades, and we're proud of our campus. And If you're ever in the area or going by on I-70, please stop, let us know, send me a text. Happy to even get you a Starbucks coffee from our Memorial Union on the house.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Other questions? Representative Hodges.
You know, I'd have to.
Yeah, no, it's great. This is your opportunity.
A couple of things, Dr. Mason, of course, thank you for your team. Did I know that you were short timer, Mike? I don't know.
Don't like to talk about it.
It makes all of us sad, and it should make the whole state sad. But happy for what you've given to the state. One question I have is let's on the kind of the answering some of our questions that we had. These academic programs with highest retention, but also have the lowest student enrollment. And I'm looking at the top two in both philosophy and communication sciences and disorders. So with those not only having, I guess they have high retention rates, but low numbers. In the discussion of moving forward and program offerings, I mean, is that defendable that it is a low number, but it is, it keeps students there. So talk about the discussions you have in keeping those programs, around, because maybe they're not, they're not, large, popular programs.
Well, first, I'd like to point out also on question number 4 on page 23, when you asked for our which academic programs had the lowest student enrollment and what's the rate of employment within 2 years. So you're talking about the enrollment. I still noted that important that every single program is still positive, neutral or positive for return on investment for the student. And based on our calculation, which was a rough calculation, we explained our model, all of those programs are net revenue positive. So philosophy, although it's smaller enrolled, it is still a positive net revenue. So that's important to us. Are we making money? Are we losing money? Then we get back to our gen eds. Are they serving gen eds? What's the student enrollment in the semester, and what are happening to those students? And a lot of those students may even go on to law school. I mean, it gets back to the liberal arts aspect of critical thinking and analysis, and we really want to be able to have well-rounded students when they go out in business and nursing, et cetera.
Very good. One more. Talk about, and we'll learn more about Emporia State in a little bit, and I know Pitt State does, and we'll talk about Washburn as well, when it comes to engaging the community. And I know you noted here during COVID that you kind of had advisory committee, whether it be ad hoc or not, but I know you've done others. So talk about, in a sense, and buy-in may not be the right word, but I know that you and your team have engaged with the community, and there's that. I don't know if there's much in the community to go, I wonder what's going on at Fort Hays, that you and your team really, engage with folks. So talk about how that has been a benefit, I assume, to the university.
Our interaction and with the community is so tight for a lot of reasons. They're our neighbors. We know each other. We're a small community. We're involved in the school board, some of our faculty and staff. We're involved in the hospital. We're involved in the I go to county meetings and commission meetings and city commission meetings. We have our special events program that brings people into our community to experience music, orchestra, symphonies we do together. Our tech students, our applied technology students, helped build our downtown pavilion. They build, as part of their classwork, garages in the community. One of the faculty member's wife had a stroke and lost movement of their arms, and together, the students in art and design and in applied technology and engineering are designing a glove so that she can have movement back in her hand. They just developed and are really excited on this prototype of a swing that will charge your cell phone. We do athletics. The high schools would not have a place to play football if it wasn't for the university. In fact, a difficult decision for me during the pandemic is when the NCAA or the and the MA both said no football. We had to make the decision to allow the high schools to play because they were allowed. That felt like a conflict of interest when our students couldn't play on their field, but the high school students could. But for the community, we felt like it was a right decision. We talked with the principals and superintendents about what our expectations were for behavior, and it worked really well. There are so many ways that we are interacting every single day in that community.
Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, President Mason, for being here. My question has to do with the pay increase. As we've heard in this committee, but also several other committees, it's definitely an employee's market right now, not an employer's market. And so if there's any guidance that you can provide to us on how we can help, since you are unique in the fact that only a third of your employees are SGF funded, and that the others come from tuition or other areas, how we can help you provide a much needed pay increase while also restoring funding. I know this committee probably likes the fact that we don't want tuition to go up, but you're already the most affordable. And looking at the Board of Regents testimony from yesterday, there have been several years that tuition has gone up at Fort Hays, and I'm not seeing a drop in enrollment. So sometimes those decisions do have to be made by the Board of Regents to allow you to increase your tuition. But any guidance you can provide to us on how we can help you provide a much needed pay increase for your employees.
Well, the board and even the governor's office, everybody has said, make sure it's merit-based. It's a merit pool. That's really important. And for Fort Hays, I definitely, anything we can do not to freeze tuition. Our tuition isn't the same as some of the other institutions, but it's where our flexibility is. When we were growing for 19 consecutive years, our funding stayed the same. So the only way we could fund those positions is through tuitions and fees. We monitor that constantly because our number one mantra besides student success, and part of student success, is to remain affordable. That affordability is really important to us, which we supplement affordability with a lot of scholarships and opportunities to earn money.
Madam Chair.
Hey, committee, other questions? May I ask just a couple and then we'll come back. I'm trying to finish about quarter after to kind of give equal time, but I think mine are pretty quick. Dr. Mason, could you just speak a little bit more about your program of accepting community college students who have earned
Associates. Yes.
Associate's degree? How did you come to that conclusion? And, what do you anticipate it's going to mean for the university?
What do we anticipate what?
It will mean for the, what is that going to look like, you think, for the university?
Well, we're very excited. We've always had strong partnerships with two-year colleges, and we're excited. The transfer rate has been a little bit challenging for us in the past couple of years. We think more than anything, though, it's the right thing to do. These students went to a Kansas-approved community college, earned their associate's degree. Why spend the time going through curriculum and trying to match it up? We feel like that they meet the general ed requirements, and it's the right thing to do. It's efficient, it's clear communication, and we're excited by it.
Do you, if they, I'm assuming they get a associate's degree in a particular area, and so when they come to you, are they just going to have their gen eds done, or might some of those classes that they've done apply to majors in particular areas?
They would have to have more credit, I think. I'm not really prepared to answer that question. I think our provost would give you a much better answer, and I'd be happy to submit that in writing afterwards.
Thank you. And then I just have to say, I'm looking for the way you answer, or not the way, but your answers to number 3 and 4. It did strike me also that whoever's in philosophy, I don't know if you have 5 students, but they are committed to philosophy and they stick with it. even if it's one of the smallest. So it was interesting how many in these two lists matched together. So, okay, Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up to Representative Raj's previous question. So let's say you trim a class and it has 5 FTE faculty people. How do you handle that? Can those 5 FTEs move to Pitt State and with same income and everything, and they could move right over to someplace that really had that program and go? Is that part of the region's responsibility of being able to transfer faculty back and forth between one university to the next?
So, well, FTE are numbers. If you talk about the people, will the people go? You know, they would have the opportunity to search for a job. But I can tell you, we're always concerned about our people. So in looking at that program, we have some vacancies of faculty and HHP, Health and Human Performance, which is where that is housed. So some of those faculty are able to move out. We've got some people that are moving on anyway. And one of the positions that we just hired, the person ended up resigning. And so in that situation, we're able to do this move without terminating a person's job. But again, in our process, not a person, but a position has to be identified so that we know where we would go. Certainly, we would love for some of our colleagues to have our talented faculty, but it's just a regular search process where they choose to go. It's not managed where we move people around. Oftentimes, presidents and colleagues talk about, hey, I've got this great person if you're looking for it, or hey, we're searching, do you know anybody? So we share that kind of information all the time.
That's not done through, there's no common communication through the regions helping you out with that. It's inter-president kind of thing.
As far as I'm aware.
Okay, Representative Rajas, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fort Hays, I've got to get an update on China. Tell us about that and that program, kind of now somewhat post-pandemic, or what's going on there, so we all know.
So, as you know, the Ministry of Education reduced our quota. We keep hearing that it may creep up. One of our strategies that our partners allowed was to increase the number of credit hours that we offer versus they have dual degrees. So they have an American degree, Chinese degree, same faculty, same curriculum, same everything. So right now, a difficult part of delivering classes in China is that not all of our faculty were able to get back to China. So some are still living on campus and teaching face-to-face. Others are teaching online with the partner's permission. We still have a very strong relationship with CIOS and SNU University. They want it to work. We're working through it. We've always built that program income so that if the program goes away, then it's not harmful to us. I mean, we wouldn't have as much revenue produced from it, but we've got a net revenue positive position. So we adjust with the classes and the faculty accordingly, as we do in the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And just, speaking of China, I'm really interested in your cybersecurity initiative. And so hopefully we can look at that just a little bit more too. So yeah. Okay, committee, anything else for Dr. Mason before we let her sit down? Okay, thank you so much for being here. We'll let you know if we have other questions, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, we are now going to hear from Ken Hush, the interim president in Emporia State, and I think he has his cheering group committee back there with him. So we welcome to our other legislators that are here to the committee. So, Mr. Doctor, I don't have your, is it?
It's Mr.
Mr.
Just Ken.
Well, welcome to the committee. We're glad you're here and look forward to hearing about Emporia State.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair and committee, I'd just like to thank everyone for the opportunity for us to have this time together and present Emporia State University today. In addition, thank you for your service towards the state of Kansas. prior to 3 months ago, I was a taxpayer, so I really wanted to thank you. So, again, it's an honor to be here. My name is Ken Hush. I'm the interim president, as the Madam Chair has pointed out. I would like to introduce part of my leadership team, Diana Coleman, who is our Vice President, Administration and Finance, Angela Wolgram, who is our Budget Director, Kelly Hine is our Chief Marketing Officer and Media Relations, Greg Schneider, who is a distinguished professor of history and our Government Relations Officer. Also present, we're honored to have our local representatives, Mr. Mark Shriver and Jeff Longvine. Again, I'm the interim. I listened to Tisa earlier, and a seasoned leader professional. I listened to Dr. Steve Scott on Monday with Pittsburgh State, frankly, for coaching tips. He's retiring after 13 years. What you're getting today is less than 13 weeks. All right. So just as a starting point.
It'll be nice. We promise.
No. Questions are good. Makes us better. Just for your, I'm not from academia. I'm from the private sector. I'm from the business world. A lot of your questions that you were previously asking are questions that I'm always asking. So it's interesting to see both sides of the fence. That said, I am an ESU alum. I'm also, and uniquely, an Emporia native. I grew up there, went to high school, and stayed there to go to university. Coincidentally, I have moved back in the last several years. I'm a local Emporia resident and have been in voluntary roles for Emporia State for the last couple decades, primarily the foundation and some other initiatives. I was also previously appointed when I was living in Wichita over the years as a governor appointee for Wichita State University as a trustee. That was back in the day when the origination of the Innovation Campus was happening. It was exciting times. Like the others, we have responded in advance to all the questions that were previously asked to us, I believe, and we can touch on those as you see fit. I did want to point out, I thought it was interesting, question number 1. So about profitability, which was also discussed with Fort Hays State earlier. You've received a packet from us in advance, I've been told, and we've reviewed. So it is different from Emporia State University's presentation historically. It's shorter, although there are a lot of some stats and figures here. We'll just touch on the high points and then allow you to take us in the details as follows. When I accepted this job, this interim role, I had a lot of people instantly reach out to me and give me advice. And it was interesting coming from the previous world that I was from. They were giving me all these stereotypical views of higher ed. They were also giving me very viewpoints and their opinions on how the politicians looked at higher ed, et cetera, et cetera. There was a word that came out that it was that Emporia State University was looked at just as an expense. From my world and in your seats as the budget committee, expense is part of finance and accounting. It's normal business. You run a very large portion of this. This is nuts and bolts. We don't hide behind that. We are Emporia State University on the expense line. Also on expense lines in worlds are research and development. Organizations around the world, corporations, expense R&D every year. What makes us both synergetic in Emporia State University, higher ed, and research and development, they're wanting to build for better. R&D produces some of the best medical advancements, healthcare improvements, fights cancer, all these. Higher ed does the same. Yes, we are an expense. Now we've got to handle the resources correctly in a fiduciary manner and make sure our expenses are being valued all the time at the optimal level. A couple of years ago, Emporia State University adopted the tagline. We are the school of investing in the future. Expenses are an investment if used properly. Page 1. Again, we'd like to thank you in your roles as state of Kansas for continuing to invest in Emporia State University. The State General Fund, you have allocated Emporia State University $34.8 million. That's roughly a third of our total budget. Those are leveraging good amounts. For every dollar the state puts in, $2 from elsewhere is being put in from others. For the upcoming budget recommendations and the impact for 2023, what it means to Emporia State University are hitting some synergies and similar themes as the others. Kansas families, both from a reducing the financial burden and also for expanding opportunities for low income. And in the Emporia community, which is 25,000 persons, we have a finite community. It's diversified. It's becoming more diversified and ethnic, and we're very proud of that. The other benefit also is via our workforce and labor. The question was asked about potential increasing for the merit-based compensation. We appreciate consideration on that. Lastly, and again, it was touched on, infrastructure and deferred maintenance and our assets. For us, Emporia State, it's approximately our deferred maintenance of $80 million. The total asset value of the whole campus book value is around $400 million, just as comparison. Again, in summary, I think the 4-year degrees are valuable. Page 2, our students and employees. You can see the data there. Our high points, our student base is around 6,000, give or take directionally. It's split between undergrad and grad, as well as on campus and off. Our retention rate is similar. It was touched on earlier at 78%. The middle section, Emporia State University fuels employer needs. And I thought it was a very good question that was asked earlier about the employment workforce, just in general, not just for Emporia State, but the state of Kansas. I came from the other side not too long ago. The supply demand's out of whack. And there is a huge demand for talent. And I think as a result, you've seen some of the shifting over the years, people leaving careers and going to another one. That's going to continue to happen. And that has a trickle-down effect to talented people who are lower compensated. As you can see there, a large portion of our students, 88%, come from Kansas. Same way, 63% of our grads. Next 2 points is after they graduate, and for the last couple of years, we're between 85 and 91% how you look at our student and graduates staying in Kansas. That's high impact, particularly from a revenue side, tax basis, everything associated with the Kansas economy. Last section, we have high career placement and graduate continuance for higher ed and advanced degrees. We are recognized in the middle, as you can see, as a Kansas unique university, public university for improving socioeconomic statuses. And along with Pittsburgh State, we are some of the lowest student debt for all of our students. That last section, I would just like to clarify the number. Yes, lowest debt. Are we the cheapest? No. The cool thing about Kansas and being a proud Kansan is I think we have a solid work ethic. Our students, a lot of them, it's always been the case, they work during their school, so they're contributing to keeping their debt low. Next 2 pages have to deal with our graduates And the investment dollars that you as a state are contributing towards Emporia State University, we are building the talent pipeline. This whole section, this whole label, 24 months ago, was probably not even in the scope of things. It's been accentuated, as we all know, with what we're going through and have gone through. We'll continue to go through. But we are not an R&D university. We're education for tomorrow's talent in the various ways, in the business, accounting type of fields. We have graduated students that are some of the best leaders in the state of Kansas, and you all know some. Best leaders in the nation. And I would argue there's some out there that have been the best in the world. Technology. We've always had a computer science program, IT. We'll circle back on that, how important that is today, but that's strong. Education. As you know, Emporia State University was the original Kansas State Normal School. It was the first teachers college in Kansas. We've been doing this for 159 years. Next page, our health sciences, where it's highly nursing and pre-med type of areas. It's kind of close. My mom was a registered nurse as well. They are phenomenal in that area, and as well as the sciences. Our sciences worked with two of the state agencies, as you can see there. You want to step back and just think for a second, so what? You've heard a lot of this from the others as well. We're trying to keep it simple in those areas, and sure, we have a lot of other peripheral degrees around that. But we're proud of supplying, highly needed talent and important talent. Step back. 24 months ago, pandemic starts and blows up. So many unknowns. It was what was happening and coming out in the first few months, we were all reacting to. We were all reacting differently. We didn't know how to react. But look back, what's vibrant about that time, and we're proud of for Emporia State University, as with our other institutions. Look who carried the flag strongly over the last couple of years in pandemic. Medical field, nurses. We develop them, we prepare them. Teachers. Look what the teachers had to do, whether it's pre-kindergarten all the way up through university system. The teachers had to adapt. They had to make changes in curriculum. They had to do it differently. The business accountants, they were providing magical type of scenarios to survive, frankly. And you and your roles also too for the state. And the fourth bucket of that was technology. When a lot of people moved remote, removed home, moved wherever they were, IT, computer sciences made it all happen. They connected everything. It's interesting because we produce and graduate that big need. And that's not going away probably for those 4 or 5 main areas. Next page. The economic impact of Kansas, how Emporia State University supports Kansas and our Kansas economy. Our total employees, as you can see there, are around 850. If you assume student employees and part-time, it's 1,000 directionally. We're one of the largest employers in Emporia and the local area. Next figure is probably low, but all the activities on the university system brings in a lot of local prosperity for the businesses, et cetera. That's probably down because of less attendance and a lot of areas for different reasons. If you look at Emporia State just as a little city university that supplies or provides education for Emporia, you can see now 86% of our students are outside of our county, Lyon County. We represent students that are originating from 30 states and even 35 countries. Again, diversity, we like it. I've had the opportunity to live abroad in several places and obviously travel. I have met Emporia State grads wherever I'm at, and I'm proud to do so. We also have internally a Kansas Small Business Development Center that we appreciate. It's a partnership between yourselves and the feds and ourselves. So for a $200,000 investment, you know, the local community reaps about $9 million in benefits. Okay, it's added about 300 jobs and facilitated and created about 26 transactions, either in the buy and sell from a business standpoint. And again, having the long legacy of teaching, we're the home of the National Teacher Hall of Fame and everything associated with teaching from a nationwide perspective. Again, so what? From a business standpoint, you and ourselves have to make correct and the best we can investment decisions. So let's just look at a little return on investment exercise. The state funds Emporia State University $34.8 million, 6,000 students. If you consider that investment on a 4-year basis for each student, you apply forward interest rates, you know, taxes in returns coming back after they graduate, you assume some basic needs, buying a house, buying a car over a period of time. Your payback is about 7 years. That's about a 10% return. As a comparison, the Dow Jones, how many are invested, okay, in various 401ks, et cetera, that return since inception is about the same. I don't know, there might be an entrepreneurial type opportunity for the state from a forward investment standpoint in education. Last section. The label here is, and this is where we're different this year, okay? And again, a lot of great questions earlier to Fort Hays State and to others that have been represented. To improve is to change. I'm a kind of a history buff. I like kind of, you know, using the mantra of what have we learned in various ways. That's only half the quote. I've always respected leaders that have their backs against the wall and stand firm and make the right decisions day in, day out, and are willing to fight for it. To improve is to change. The second part of that is to be perfect is to change a lot. That's Winston Churchill. My eyes, probably one of the most influential leaders in the past century. Back against the wall, everything. So why do we use that? We're very comfortable with the word change. You know, I've always admired the Kansas traits. You know, I think we're fair persons. I think, again, touched earlier on the work ethic. The one I really like is I think we have a degree of humility. And so we're approaching you today in that attempt. We're being frank and honest with you on this page. When I received the invite for this session today, I noticed it had the word testimonial. Boy, I had a head scratch. I hadn't seen the word in a long time. Been, you know, a lot of other things over the years and depositions, everything. I thought, well, you know, maybe I ought to look it up. So, you know, Merriam-Webster and I are close friends on the Google. So I looked it up and it said, hey, it's a public written or spoken statement, which we're doing today. Another definition A few lines down was a simple one, and it was an open acknowledgement. So here we are, Emporia State University today. What we're telling you is, and going to tell you, that we need to change. We have not and are not meeting our own expectations. We're calling it out on ourselves. We need to do better. We need to hold ourselves accountable. And we put in an action plan, and this is what we're doing about it the last few months, and want to let you know. You've heard the phrases re-engineering, higher ed. We're reimagining Emporia State University. Yes, we do and educate students that are fantastic citizens of the state of Kansas, fantastic leaders in the various ways. That is an ongoing machine. What we're doing is stepping back internally from a structure and an organization standpoint, and how do we improve ourselves, and knowing we need to change. We're wanting to embrace change, and by the way, trying to create a point of view forward. We have lots of questions on what the future looks like. If there's anything that we've learned from the last few years and looking back over time, is we can't control what tomorrow's going to bring, right? And we better be pretty open-minded to it. And frankly, we need to do a better job at that. So looking forward while taking care of ourselves. We're stepping back. We are in process of doing an institution-wide self-assessment. Talking with some of the members on campus, I think, and some of the actions, yep, there's some head scratching going on. There's a little bit of nervousness going on. But again, I don't know, maybe they were sitting on the sideline the last few years. Don't know where they were at. So, and by the way, the question was asked on, it was the number one question that I referred to earlier on the 20-page question, profitability. Do we have that broken down by department or degree? No, we do not. But interesting enough, that was a question I asked, I don't know, day 3 or 4, how we do that. And I was told I'm not from higher ed, so, but we are doing that, and we will get there. Okay? We provided the regents with various information and various pieces of that over time, but we will develop that. And it will be in a business acumen style. It will be brief. It will be by degree and by department, and that will be happening. The interesting thing about that is these changes is we have all the deans and of our faculty on board. We want to be nimble. We want to be flexible. We need to adapt. Vision and innovation is always used. I mean, it's always interesting, and you can see over the last couple of years on people who use the words and then people who actually act on it and can make it happen and who can actually execute it. That kind of percentage limits down fairly quickly. Again, we're going to build our solid platform, okay? So which we can step from. I have a little place, I live just outside of Emporia on a little lake. So the boats in the summer, and most people have floating docks, okay? And they're trying to step off the dock into boats and everything. I kind of like my concrete dock, okay? I can stand firm, I can step firm. It's the platform and the solid base that we're going to get. And we have it. The past, all the staff and faculty have done a phenomenal job over the years, but we need to accelerate all this now in a quicker way. We're going to we're going to remove some of the bureaucracy, as we've already done, some of the less red tape. The organization was all vertical. You had several layers. You had several different decision-making type of units. And we're wanting to make it efficient, but more so not just efficient, but effective from a decision-making standpoint. The handful of other items, the last section, is actually what we have done and are doing from an action standpoint via this process. Our priority initiatives, we have elevated enrollment, which was tucked down in a lower section. It's elevated, and they're a leader. We've refunded that for the second half of the year. We're investing in the growth areas and not just, dancing around the edges anymore. I think the question was asked also earlier about various program mix and evaluating that. We are getting there, and we're going to do that internally ourselves. And again, that's going to be led by some strong faculty members. In addition to, I think, like a couple of the other universities have done, we're going to bring an outside consultant in as well. So we'll have the two to compare. This is a 90, 120 day type of exercise from an internal perspective on the program mix review. What that means, I don't know yet. You have the figures, and there's obviously some low enrollment areas that mean more from a big picture standpoint. So we'll go down in the weeds, we'll look at that, we'll take a step back, which normal leaders do, and look at the big picture, and then discuss it with a good leadership team and make that happen. We will be growing in some areas, no doubt. Again, we had several decision-making groups within the university. We've removed those. It was multiple meetings. We've removed those. We now have a 20-member leadership team across campus, all in one room, all at one table. And I think it's the energy amongst campus with all the changes that we're making is higher. People are reinvigorated. Are they voicing their opinions? Absolutely. What I didn't realize in a 1,000 person organization on how many people will text you or email you directly. So yes, we're getting tons of feedback. Workforce, labor of our own. You had mentioned also the concerns. This is a concern. It's over the last handful of years because of, and granted, we appreciate your committee and the state sponsoring consideration of increased compensation. Thank you very much on a merit-based scenario to the side. What we're also doing internally, much like what we're doing for the program mix, we are going to evaluate every employee immediately over the next 90 days, individually, understanding performers, top performers, and move towards performance-based. Over the last handful of years, what I started to say was we've had some great talent leave. Frankly, part compensation, part frustration, no growth, not hearing voices. That's a concern. And by the way, the majority of them left Kansas. It's our role, all of us, regardless of our roles, is to the best we can as residents is to keep high talent here. It's simple economics, simple supply and demand. It creates a vibrant, just economic engine. Relationships, no doubt about it. I think the question the other day was asked about taxpayers and something about should they have a voice in say-so in higher ed in any form. All I can tell you is we had an alumni base. We have 60,000-ish alumni at Emporia State University. Within the first 72 hours during the Thanksgiving break, I had about 2,000 people that I've never known before, voicing opinions, and frankly, they were more the quiet that kind of stepped away. So that's been good. We're here today to voice opinions and put them together. So thank you. We're going to, throughout this entire process, we're going to face some challenges. We're going to make decisions as we go. And again, all this is being done to benefit the economic engine. of Kansas and its prosperity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have a feeling, just being from the business community, you are shaking things up a little bit from what I'm hearing. So, okay, committee, I always look this way. I'm sorry, I'm going to look this way first as for a change. Does anyone over here have a question? Yes, Representative Rogers.
That I do. Mr. Hush, thanks for being here. Very interesting. I guess as you were going through this whole presentation, I know our time is short, but you come at this, I guess, from a true CEO position, if you will, for the business community. So you may approach it a little bit different. So my question is, on that first day, what was the first thing you did when you got on campus?
I grew up, I was raised by parents who quickly told me that I was not the smartest guy in the room, and so I should learn to listen really well and be around smart people. So it was a listening mode. Ask tons and tons of questions and listen. I mean, academia is phenomenal. It's one of the biggest luxuries in life that we have. I respect mine, and everybody does. So we started just having lots of discussions. We were listening, talking with each other, challenging each other, and that's how it started. Coincidentally, the first day that I took the job, the Board of Regents were on campus for their visit. So it was good timing.
Right quick. Okay. And Emporia has a long history of certain things, and I know that it continues to evolve and what kind of you're, quote, known for. One of those is education. I'm sure that's one of the things that had to hit you square in the eye. We need educators not only on this level, but also especially K-12, and we're not getting them. And I see in some of the questions, obviously strong in some things. Is that one of the priorities, is to continue to grow and encourage those students to become teachers, to get them? Because there are Emporia State teachers all over the state of Kansas.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. The four main buckets that were mentioned earlier, it's to really gear up and facilitate those. Those are the biggest demand pockets that the state of Kansas has. And, I watched a 60 Minutes special the other night on nurses. Louisville, Kentucky, these hospitals were reaching up. They'd hire 150 nurses just with an application, each of them, 450. Okay. The same thing is true for teachers. You were starting to read about burnout caused by the last few years, same way with nurses. I think the whole supply demand of the workforce is going to be turned upside down. And having been on that fence recently and trying to hire people, it may be that workers for the state, in whatever form, whatever areas we are exiting to go into private sector. That's how short things are.
Good for now.
Okay, other questions, committee? Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question, one comment. So the question is, and I'll try to take a swing at this again. I evidently didn't get where I wanted to go with this, is so you're graduating people in all of these areas. How do you know that they're learning? And if they go and get a job or whatever, and they're not to the quality of the learning that they need out in the field, what are you doing to give them some kind of a free ride back to take some classes so that they are making that Microsoft certification, teacher, passing the praxis that they need to get the job? What are you doing to make sure that they learn, not graduate?
Good question. A key indicator, I'm a numbers guy. A key indicator is when there is a higher rate and success rate for graduates coming out at 96% in some form or another. That is a strong, strong indicator that learning needs are being met in some form or another. And granted, there's some percentage that are not, but that's just one of the key indicators. Is that if that was much lower, then we would take a look at, can we do that better? Absolutely. to my knowledge, we don't have free education once that comes back. It should they come back, okay, to try and improve themselves. But it's a good point. We'll take note of that. And as you can see, everything's on the table. But again, key indicator is the hiring rate of the state of Kansas.
My comment then is perhaps you should, I'll give you a little history on this, but perhaps you should take President Mason out to dinner and have a discussion on this. But in the same school, two teachers, I and another teacher, basically working together, wanted to take our work on our master's degree, special education. The other teacher decided to go to Fort Hays for some other reasons. I decided to go to Emporia. I marveled at how quickly she was accepted into her graduate degree. To me, it was like, why don't you want my money? Why don't you want me to be part of your your graduation and work on that degree? So I would just say as a comment, maybe the two of you ought to discuss how people get into those master's degree programs and special education, accounting, things like that, and whether your school is holding people back because of what I would call arrogance and how good you have to be there. So there's a comment.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd be glad to buy.
Committee, other questions? Okay, Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for being here. I should have asked this of each university. I'm not going to use the dirty word that starts with an R, but how are you preparing? How much are you spending on preparing students who come to the university not quite ready to be in college? How much does that, what is that figure coming from K through 12? Just
You need to say the word.
remediation. I know you're not supposed to do remedial classes, but there has to be a way to figure out the cost of what you're needing to do to get these kids to a level where they can be successful college students.
Right. That's fair. I don't know if I have an answer for you. Yes, we will certainly come back to you. Absolutely.
I'll ask the other universities to see if they can
Okay.
quantify that as well. I think it's a significant issue, and also in your ability to graduate some people. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Well, okay, thank you. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, just a quick comment on that. I know that as part of the recommendations from the Future of Higher Ed Council a year or two ago, they did look at how can we explore co-requisite training. So those students that are not quite there, it might be a 5 credit hour class instead of a 3 credit hour class, so that they're getting caught up while also learning the same level material if it's college algebra or something else. So I'd be interested to know, I think, whether it's maybe not today, but from the universities, how that's going and what that might look like in the future.
Great. I would be remiss if I didn't mention question 19, which I had mentioned on Monday, but about what's the appropriate role for Kansas taxpayers to gain involvement. And maybe that question was the wrong word, ideological, because, Emporia State doesn't have an ideological direction where you certainly have a culture and you have a direction, and sounds like maybe you're changing some things around. So I think the question is, how transparent are you for parents and taxpayers as far as looking at your classes and the syllabi and, just what is being taught? Because maybe you don't have an ideological direction. We know your professors do. I mean, not just yours, but all over. So, what would be the best way for parents and taxpayers to gain a little bit of insight into?
From a proactiveness from employee
Proactive
state.
or just knowledge?
There's no doubt we need to do a better job of that. I would say that overall employee state proactive is where we're going to redial. And that's certainly an area that we need to service. And again, I think that, the openness is there. Is it there to meet our own expectations? Absolutely not. So we will add that. Thank you.
Okay, committee, any other questions? All right, well, we really appreciate you coming. And for your first time, you did a great job. And we thank you for being here. And thank you for bringing your section. And I will, several times when you said something, everyone got a smile on their face. When it was about the first day, what happened the first day, they all smiled. So you must have had a good first day. Yeah. Also, committee, we will have Wichita State tomorrow. We will have another Gold and Black school tomorrow. We're doing that. We're doing all of those right here. So you might just let us know if you're going to come by WebEx or not. I mean, I hope you're here in person, but I certainly understand it's Friday afternoon. So maybe just let us know if you plan on coming by WebEx. And the last thing, Shirley, Representative Riley had those list of questions. And I think the Board of Regents, I know these 20 questions each university has been asking, but there was that other list. And will you remind me, did we get an email with the answers to all of those? Okay, could you just reiterate that, please?
You should have received those last week. I can look up the email and find out, but I believe we sent those out to everybody.
Okay, so make sure you look at those too, because those were very informative and had to do with each of the universities too. So, okay, I think we're finished for the day. Committee, thank you very much. Oh, Representative Riley.
Will there be a time that we will approve minutes of previous meetings? Seems like in other committees we do that occasionally.
Okay, so in a budget committee, we don't have minutes for every day. Now, there are some very short minutes for the days that we have made recommendations. And we will approve those minutes, but they're and budget committees are a little bit different than the other committees. And Shirley?
Actually, it's not when we have recommendations, it's when we introduce bills, because those have to go in the record. I think you have 1 day of minutes for.
I think we have 2 days where we've introduced bills. Okay, that's great. And
the record for the recommendations are our subcommittee reports.
Perfect. Okay, and I think Diane has worked on those, and thank you for that reminder. Okay, committee, then we're adjourned. Thank you so much.